What's going on, guys? Finally, I'm back with another podcast for you guys. So without further ado, let's just get this started. So something I want to talk about today is the shift there has been in wrestling as a whole, not just WWE, but also with all the other independent circuits out there and the other brand of wrestling that is out there, like AEW, TNA, and so on and so forth. It's become so much more popular than what it was 20 years ago, and even just up to recently, like 5 years ago. The amount of people that are into wrestling now, it's pretty incredible. And with the lifelong fans like myself, I feel like most of us had those periods of where we didn't follow wrestling for a certain amount of time, whether it be a couple years ago, whether it be way back when, and we're back into it now. Not entirely sure how it is for everyone, but I feel like most of us have had that moment where it's like, yeah, I'm not into wrestling anymore. Oh, never mind, I'm back in it. So kind of for me, like I've grown up watching wrestling. Wrestling was just something we always watched. It was always around when I was growing up. I started to get older and a little bit also busier with my life, so kind of like following wrestling was no longer a big priority for me. And also, it just kind of seemed that when I stopped watching, I stopped watching at around 2016 or so, and I feel like one of the main reasons is I'm getting older, I'm getting a little bit more mature, and it just felt like the superstars at the time weren't really connecting with the audience, with the older generation, that the kids way back when that were watching it, and now they're part of the adult fan base. I feel like they just stopped catering to us, right? And then also, I don't know if it's just because I've noticed it more or if I was paying more attention, but it just felt like a lot of the matches just seemed very structured. Like obviously the matches are scripted and they're rehearsed, and there's a certain way that things need to happen. Obviously, we all get that, we all understand that, but it just seemed just too much, where it's like there was no improvisation or anything. It was just like by the book, and it kind of took away of the life of what wrestling was. And then having big stars and veterans like John Cena leaving the company to move on, do other things, I think that also just took away one of the most important people in the business. Randy Orton getting older, and just up until recently was out for a year and a half. So just all that stuff from several years ago up to pretty much very recent was just I think not just for me. I feel like for a lot of fans around the world, I feel like this specific time period was a time where it's like, you know what, I don't really like wrestling that much anymore. However, for myself, I always made sure to at least stay up to date, keep up with what's going on. Always make sure that, I know who all the big stars are, who the incoming stars are, because there was always a part of me that was like, I still want to know what's going on. So I tried to at least maintain a little bit of contact with WWE and wrestling as a whole, making sure to watch at least the PLEs. I for sure never missed WrestleMania, and I for sure never missed a Royal Rumble, my two favorite pay-per-views of all time. I'll never miss those. So just always trying to make sure that I'm keeping up to date, even though I'm not actively following. There was a span of 2-3 years where I haven't watched a single Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown because I just wasn't interested. And it wasn't really until the arrival of Cody Rhodes that I really got back into wrestling, where I really started to show a higher interest. And the difference between being a young fan, a little kid, and an adult and still being a fan, the biggest difference is you see past the character. I don't know, back then, Eddie Guerrero was babyface before he passed, rest in peace, and Kurt Angle, and then he turned heel, and as a kid you're like, oh my god, I don't like this guy anymore because he's the bad guy. Now as an adult, just analyzing the characters and just looking at it as a whole, I'm not as gullible as I used to be. So being able to just watch the characters, watch everyone portray who they want to be, I feel like I just understand the part of the storytelling way better now as an adult, as I obviously did as a kid, which makes the in-ring wrestling almost, well, it's still relevant, but it doesn't make it as relevant as the character and their contribution to the storyline. I feel like the wrestling will always be there. That's obviously what it is, but the characters and the storylines, that's what's special, and that's what gives the show its big pop. So just being able to analyze all that stuff and understanding that more, that's kind of what helped me to get back into wrestling. And then going back to Cody Rhodes, so his return at WrestleMania, what was it, 38? Yeah, WrestleMania 38 is when he returned, and that was when I started to follow wrestling again, where I watched Monday Night Raw and the SmackDowns and all that stuff again. One of my favorite things about Cody Rhodes is that he came back as the American Nightmare character. American flag all over the place. I just think that's super cool. And then I just liked seeing what he was able to do because, let's be honest, not many of us thought he was going to come back from Stardust, because that was god-awful. So him being able to go out in the world of wrestling, reinvent himself, and then come back as the guy is pretty impressive. And just following the storytelling throughout the years from when he left WWE, all the independent circuit stuff he did, to AEW, to coming back to WWE, and then from WrestleMania 38 up until WrestleMania 40, being able to tell that entire story was pretty phenomenal. Like I thought it was great, and that's what really is what kept my interest, the story and what was happening. And then, now all of a sudden The Rock is involved, and he turned heel, and he's involved in Cody Rhodes' story now. Like it was absolutely great. So just being able to understand the characters and the stories more now as an adult has really changed the way I look at wrestling. Because, like, yeah, the wrestling itself is fun to watch, but you can only watch kind of the same thing so many times, because it's always going to be, like, the main matches are always going to be heels versus faces. Heels are going to get a couple wins here and there, but the face is usually going to always get the ultimate win. Always happens that way. So if you're only watching because of that, like because somebody may go through a table here and there, like realistically, that's not worth it. Like that's why now being an adult, being invested in the story is what makes it worth watching, because there's just a lot more than someone going through a table every once in a while. Because I mean, compared to several years ago, I feel like the amount of Extreme Rules matches that we've had now in the more modern days versus back then are way less. And obviously there's reasons for that, because, we're trying to protect the superstars as much as possible. They're already going through enough, so let's try to keep them healthy as long as possible, right? So substitute that with good storytelling. I think that's what's the most important. So just being able, like I said, just being able to understand the stories and the characters way more has made wrestling so much more appealing than it was when I was a kid. And I feel like a lot of people have come back to wrestling because of that. They've gotten older. They're more into actually the storytelling, because it's always great. It's always great to go on Twitter or somewhere on Instagram and see posts of something that happened in wrestling, like on, let's say, Monday Night Raw, and then someone found that was kind of like a connection to a storyline from fucking 5 years ago, where it kind of just was there, and then they just completed the loop 5 years later. And I think it's cool. Like, yeah, maybe it's something I didn't catch at all in the moment, but when I see it later on the internet, it makes my mind, like, it just blows my mind. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on. Now that we have social media, that just makes wrestling, in my opinion, so much better. Just because I'm able to follow and see other things more than I used to when I was a kid growing up without any of this stuff, right? And it was very limited. It was limited to WCW and WWE until WCW was gone and it was just WWE. And the fun fact, just quick sidebar, when WCW and WWE had their big rivalry, I didn't even realize that. Like, I was a kid. That was late 90s, so I was like 6, 7, 8 years old when all this stuff happened. And I just thought it was wrestling. I didn't understand that there were two companies. I thought it was just wrestling. So I didn't know that there was a Monday Night War. I just thought it was wrestling. I didn't understand that there were two different companies. So going back to my main point, now as I'm older and there's more social media, I'm able to follow all these other wrestling companies and independent circuits a lot better. So, and which makes wrestling a little bit more fun, because only having WWE, yeah, that's fine. Like, they have Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown. They have Tuesday Night NXT now as well. So they already got 3 days in the week, and then every 3 to 4 weeks they have a pay-per-view on Saturdays. So they got the week set, right? So, but being able to go on social media and follow TNA and AEW, which AEW is also on Tuesdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays or something like that, on different, whatever their schedule is. And then New Japan, and then other independent circuits like GCW, and like OVW and all that other stuff, and just independent wrestlers in general. Like, I'm a huge Matt Cardona fan. Like, like he didn't really pop off as Zack Ryder in WWE as much as most wanted to, because his character just didn't work. But Matt Cardona is phenomenal. Like, I wish that he would come back to the WWE. Like that, it's a possibility, because they already brought his wife back. But like, they would have to bring him back as Matt Cardona, and I don't know if that'll work, or if they could do that. But like I was saying, with social media, it's just a lot more fun to be a wrestling fan, because you have all this other stuff that you can watch and you can follow, and you feel a lot less lost when one of those big names from those independent companies comes over to WWE or AEW, because you've already seen them establish themselves. Like, for example, the Bloodline, that entire family. You got Jacob Fatu and Zilla Fatu that have been killing the independent circuit. There's major rumors that they're going to be in WWE at some point. So all you have to do is look them up in online, and you're going to see a bunch of videos of them, and you're going to be able to familiarize yourself with them. And then once they show up on TV or at the arena or wherever, you're not going to be surprised, because you're going to be like, dude, I know who that is. This dude's a big deal. So I think social media has been a tremendous asset for pro wrestling, because it's able to connect the audience just a lot better to the sport. And the only thing that kind of sucks, so you got WWE and AEW that are on, like regular TV, and then the problem is, like, these independent circuits, unless you have a subscription somewhere, you're probably not going to be able to watch them. At least, like, NWA, you're able to watch on the CW app. I think it's for free as well. But like TNA, they have their own TNA premium subscription, and like, for most people, can't do an additional $10 a month, because they already got all these other subscriptions that they do. They got their Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, ESPN, all kinds of other stuff, and then you have to add on another one just to be able to watch wrestling like once a week. So I feel like once TNA gains more popularity again, after being out for a little bit, I feel like they'll be able to get back on TV like they used to be back in the day. And then that would be cool, especially now that they're kind of in a partnership with the WWE. Like we all know 2 years or 1 year ago, that would have never been a possibility. And now we've had WWE and TNA events collide with each other, and having TNA superstars representing TNA coming to WWE, performing on WWE. So I think there a lot of good stuff is coming for TNA, especially because you also have Matt Hardy there, and there's a lot of rumors, and there's a lot of speculation that Jeff Hardy is going to be there as well to help out Matt Hardy in his title fight against Moose. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of WWE involvement here, crossing over shortly in the near future. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see all that stuff. I just wish there was a easier and cheaper way to follow TNA as well. But hopefully in the near future that gets settled somehow and they can be represented on like national TV again like they used to. So like the point of this podcast was kind of to talk about like how the fan base kind of fell off with WWE because of, like it just seemed dull. And now that things are greater than ever, like you can't deny that WWE has been pretty awesome, especially this year and last year. So, I just wanted to get another episode out. I know I've been out for quite a while. My leg's healing really good. And, I'm just excited to get more content out of there. And, of course, my new setup. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you.